Work and learn. Meet Light Meet Max සක්‍රිය කර ගැනීමට MySLT app එකට log වෙන්න. Work and learn. Meet Light Meet Max සක්‍රිය කර ගැනීමට MySLT app එකට log වෙන්න.
First at 9 this Sunday, the 13th of November 2022. Regaining stability. Government set to present 2023 budget tomorrow. Central Bank Governor says midterm stability expected to be achieved.
People also expect the government to articulate its vision to recover the economy from the current crisis and also to regain stability in the medium term.
Long awaited unloading of 100,000 metric tons of crude oil begins after 50 days of anchorage over payment delays. Tourism. Kuwaiti airline Jazeera Airways commences flight operations to Colombo. Over 50 destinations expected to be connected with Sri Lanka.
From AdaDerana, this is AdaDerana First at 9 with Derana. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
And a warm welcome. Joining you tonight, I'm Derana, and we take a look at your top stories making headlines tonight. Well, Governor of the Central Bank talks about Budget 2022, but at the same time, during a time of unprecedented economic challenges, the government is set to present Sri Lanka's budget for 2023 in Parliament tomorrow. The budget will be presented while the country is suffering from soaring inflation, a weakening currency and low foreign exchange reserves. With the government keen on securing an IMF bailout package to help the country rebound from the worst financial meltdown, it is also expected that the budget will be focused on boosting revenue, implementing tax reforms and fiscal consolidation.
President Ranil Wickremesinghe, in his capacity as Minister of Finance, Economic Stabilisation and National Policies, will deliver the opening speech of the second reading of the Appropriation Bill to Parliament tomorrow at 1:30 p.m. The debate on the second reading of the Appropriation Bill will begin on the 15th of November and the vote on the second reading has been scheduled for the 22nd of November. Experts and analysts suggest that the budget will be a reform-oriented budget with an emphasis on reducing the budget deficit, tax increments, and initial reforms on state-owned enterprises, among more. These reforms will be implemented with the intention of securing an IMF bailout package of $2.9 billion, which will be used to replenish the foreign exchange reserves in a bid to ease the pressures on the local economy by the government. In 2021, the government revenue collection was extremely challenged by the impact of the pandemic on the economy combined with extraordinary tax cuts in late 2019. Government revenue sharply declined in 2020 and 2021, as a result pushing Sri Lanka's tax to GDP ratio to 7.7%, having consistently decreased over the past few years. This figure is among the lowest worldwide. Meanwhile, Sri Lanka has also seen a drastic decline in the number of registered taxpayers, particularly for payee tax and advanced personal income tax. The number of taxpayers registered for payee tax decreased by 82% between 2019 and 2020, while further decreasing from 209,800 to 32,702 between 2020 and 2021. However, in September, State Minister for Finance Ranjit Siambalapitiya stated that the Inland Revenue Department was able to achieve 68.4% of its 915 billion rupee target for the year, while being on track to cover the rest within the scheduled time frame.
Now, Central Bank Governor Dr. Nandalal Veerasinghe says beginning stability and regaining stability in the medium term is expected through Budget 2023, which will be presented tomorrow. The Governor will be joining AdaDerana at 7:45 p.m. tomorrow for a post-budget discussion themed Recovering from Current Crisis and Regaining Stability, together with a panel of experts.
Budget 2023 is expected to present government's fiscal policy in terms of revenue and expenditure. People also expect the government to articulate its vision to recover the economy from the current crisis and also to regain stability in the medium term out of this crisis.
And we also need to understand that for any country, you need at least 15 to 18% of your GDP should represent income tax or other taxes. In Sri Lanka, it has been completely the other way. If you take last year, it has been hovering around again 8%. So we need to make sure that that's going to be increased. The state-owned enterprises, everyone is looking forward to making sure how this is going to be dealt in the budget proposals, because efficiency is absolutely important. What is important here is also we need to make sure the continuity of budget proposals or the continuity of our policies. If you take the past, there had been major changes taking place every other year about these policies. We are expecting foreign investments to be brought into Sri Lanka. But when there are changes, constant changes in tax policies, I think that's going to be a huge issue because of the fact that there are other destinations that they can easily choose.
End of the day, these taxes that have been implemented should be collectible. That is a very, very important thing. If these taxes are not going to be collectible, how are we going to run the economy? SMV has been the backbone of any country's economy, and so is this government's economy as well, because we contribute 52% to the country's GDP. But we believe the new budget should be focused on the SMVs 100%.
The unloading of a 100,000 metric ton crude oil shipment that was floating in Sri Lankan waters for around 50 days began last night after reaching an agreement for a new modality with its supplier. According to the Minister of Power and Energy, Kanchana Wijesekara, the first 95-octane petrol shipment imported by the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation since April also commenced its unloading yesterday.
A 100,000 metric ton crude oil shipment essential for operations of Sri Lanka's only refinery in Sapugaskanda, owned and operated by Ceylon Petroleum Corporation, reached Sri Lankan waters on the 20th of September. However, the government was unable to unload the shipment due to insufficient foreign reserves in state coffers. This led to the closure of the Sapugaskanda refinery once again on the 7th of October, and the ship remained anchored in Sri Lankan waters until payments were settled to begin unloading. After 50 days of anchorage, unloading of the crude oil shipment commenced last night. According to the Minister of Power and Energy, Kanchana Wijesekara, the unloading process commenced after agreeing to a new modality with the supplier. Meanwhile, in other developments related to fuel, the subject minister tweeted that the first 95-octane petrol shipment imported by the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation since April also began unloading yesterday. According to the Minister of Power and Energy, the shipment contains 19,500 metric tons of 95-octane petrol and 14,900 metric tons of 92-octane petrol. Further, the minister noted that no price revision will take place on the 15th of November. Usually, fuel prices are expected to revise on the 1st and 15th of every month as per the newly adopted pricing formula by both CPC and Lanka IOC.
His Eminence Malcolm Cardinal Ranjit said today that everyone who tries to bend the law and wash their hands of the Easter Sunday attacks will have to face the consequences of their actions. He made these remarks at a ceremony to hand over a housing scheme for the victims of the Easter Sunday attacks in Ganemulla.
The ceremonial handing over of a housing scheme built for 12 families victimized by the Easter Sunday attack was held in Ganemulla under the patronage of Archbishop of Colombo, His Eminence Malcolm Cardinal Ranjit.
හිටපු ජනාධිපතිතුමා මට පෞද්ගලිකව පොරොන්දු වුණා. මේ ගැන විනිවිද පේන නිදහස් පරීක්ෂණයක් කරනවා. ජනාධිපති කොමිෂන් සභාවේ වාර්තාව එතුමා අතට ආවට පහුවෙනිදා මට ෆෝන් කරලා කියනවා මම කොහොමද මේව ඔක්කොම කරන්නේ කියලා. මේ නිර්දේශ. ඒ කියන්නේ එතුමාට කරන්න බැරි නිර්දේශات ඒකේ තිබුණා කියන එකයි. මම කිව්වා ඔබතුමා නෙමෙයි නිර්දේශ ක්‍රියාත්මක කරන්න ඕනේ. පොලිසියට බාර දෙන්න. උසාවියට බාර දෙන්න. ඒකට මම මොකුත් කිව්වේ නැහැ. සිරිසේන ජනාධිපතිතුමා නේද ආරක්ෂා බාරව හිටපු පළවෙනියා. ඇයි එයා ජනාධිපති මුක්තිය ඉල්ල හැංගෙන්න හදන්නේ? මේක පිටිපස්සේ දේශපාලන කුමන්ත්‍රණයක් තියෙනවායි කියන එක පාර්ලිමේන්තු තේරීම් කාරක සභාවේ සමරි එකේ තියෙනවා. ඒ වගේම පාංස්කෝ කොමිෂන් සභාව වාර්තාවෙත් ජනාධිපති කොමිෂන් සභාව වාර්තාවෙත් තියෙනවා. අපැහැදිලි තැන් ගොඩක් තියෙනවා කියලා. නමුත් ඒව විග්‍රහ කරන්න මේගොල්ලෝ කිසිම උනන්දුවක් ගන්නෙ නැහැ. නීතිපති දෙපාර්තමේන්තුවට කනුත් නැහැ, ඇසුත් නැහැ, නායකුත් නැහැ. මොකුත් කෙරෙන්නේ නැහැ වගේ දැනෙන්නේ නැහැ වගේ ඉන්නවා සද්ද නොකර. බුද්ධ ආගමේ තියෙනවා ditta ධම්ම වේදිය කර්මය කියලා. ඔබ හිතනවා නම් නීතියත් ඔබට ඕන විදියට හරවගෙන මේකෙන් අත හොදා ගන්න පුළුවන් කියලා. ඉදිරියටත් වීරයෝ වගේ පෙනී ඉන්න පුළුවන් කියලා හිතනවා නම් ඔබ වැරදි. ඔබ පස්සෙන් මේ ditta ධම්ම වේදනීය කර්මය එනවා.
Now, Canadian Member of Parliament for Don Valley North, Han Dong says decentralizing power and empowering members of parliament in Sri Lanka from different regions will benefit different parts of the island in the long run. Speaking at Hyde Park on AdaDerana 24, the Canadian parliamentarian said Sri Lankans in Canada want to see meaningful progress in Sri Lanka and the outcomes in terms of achieving reconciliation and accountability.
Many Sri Lankan Canadians are paying close attention to this, and that's why Canada contributes excess of $5 million every year on this particular file. It's $5 million that come from the taxpayer from Canada. So we are acting on their behalf. What I've been hearing is that people want to see meaningful progress, meaningful steps as a outcome of dialogues of all parties, including those that represents Tamil region. I had a conversation with them, and a very frank conversation, asking what would they like to see. They want to see more influence on investments, on government programming. In my view, they're simply fighting for the benefit of their constituency. And that was in the job description of a parliamentarian. Mm-hmm. So abroad, they want to see faster movement on that front. When we talk about reconciliation, a lot of times we think about the government and one particular group. But I think in the long run, if we do this well, it's going to benefit everybody in the entire country. So when we talk about decentralizing some power, decentralizing some responsibility, empowering MPs from different regions, it's going to certainly be beneficial to different parts of Sri Lanka in the long run. And that comes back to the topic of equality. Everyone has equal access to government program. Everyone has equal access to share of investment, whether it's domestic or foreign, and that's going to be very important. And country like Canada, a member of the core group, certainly friends of Sri Lanka, we have a lot of interest in Sri Lanka. We want to see these meaningful progresses, and we'll be here to help.
Well, leader of the opposition, Sajith Premadasa, states that none from his party intend to join the present government nor take up any official positions, as they do not want to be associated with a corrupt regime. He made these remarks at an electorate meeting yesterday.
A Samag Janabalawege meeting in the Kuliyapitiya electorate was held yesterday under the patronage of opposition leader Sajith Premadasa.
අපිට කියන ආණ්ඩුවට එන්න කියලා. අපිට කියන අමතිකම් ගන්න කියලා. හර්ධ සාක්ෂියට එකඟ කිසිම කෙනෙකුට පුළුවන් ද බංකොලොත් රටක අමතිකම් ගන්න. කැබිනට් ඇමතිවරු 15ක් හිටියොත් ඇති. රාජ්‍ය ඇමතිවරු 15ක් හිටියොත් ඇති. නමුත් ඒ දේ මේ රජයට කරන්නට බෑ. ඇයි බැරි? මේ ජනාධිපතිවරයා පත් කරගත්තේ පොහොට්ටුවේ 134ක් එකතු වෙලා ඇමතිකම් ගන්න. තනතුරු ගන්න. ඒයට කිසිම හැඟීමක් නැහැ රට ගැන. පොදු ජනතාව ගැන. මම ඔබතුමන්ලට කියන්න කැමතියි. සමගි ජන බලවේගයේ කිසිම කෙනෙක් සූදානම් නැහැ. රට හොරා කාපු හොර කල්ලියත් එක්ක ගිවිසුම් ගහගෙන ආණ්ඩු කරන්න අපි සූදානම් නැහැ කියන එක මේ අවස්ථාවේ ප්‍රකාශ කරනවා.
Well, over 50 destinations to be connected by air from Colombo as Sri Lanka sets new targets for tourism arrivals. Details after this short break.
Big 3.
Welcome back to the news. Kuwaiti airline Jazeera Airways commenced operations from Kuwait to Colombo. According to Tourism Minister Harin Fernando, the commencement of Jazeera Airways operations over 50 destinations are expected to be connected to Colombo, promoting more tourists to visit Sri Lanka. So far during October and November, several airlines including Aeroflot, Azur Air, Air France and KLM Royal operations to Colombo resumed. Swiss International Airlines also resumed operations to the island on the 10th of November with the arrival of a flight from Zurich with 125 passengers. The tourism minister said Sri Lanka will be able to strengthen economic cooperation with Switzerland in the areas of trade, investment, finance, education and culture with the resumption of Swiss Air operations to Colombo. Further, all these developments are expected to attract more tourist arrivals during the winter season in a bid to achieve the expected revised tourism targets, arrival targets to Sri Lanka during this year. Well, with odds of a split US Congress rising, Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen warned that lawmakers' failure to raise the statutory limit on US debt posed a huge threat to America's credit rating and functioning of US financial markets. Yellen told Reuters in an interview in New Delhi on Friday that cooperation is still possible with Republicans on some issues, but lifting the debt ceiling is a non-negotiable condition for the present administration. Another problem Yellen faces with a potentially split Congress is failure to implement a global deal to erect a 15% corporate minimum tax after one Democratic senator objected. She said she believed most European Union countries would proceed to implement the 15% corporate minimum, which means US firms now paying overseas US taxes of 10.5% may wind up paying the difference to those governments possibly starting in 2024. Well, the International Cricket Council board today approved Sri Lanka, Malaysia, Thailand, Zimbabwe, Namibia, Bangladesh and Nepal as the host countries of the ICC Under-19 events from 2024 to year 2027. Accordingly, the ICC Under-19 Men's Cricket World Cup 2024 will be hosted by Sri Lanka, whilst the 2026 edition will be staged in Zimbabwe and Namibia. The ICC Under-19 Women's T20 World Cup 2025 will be held in Malaysia and Thailand, and the 2027 Under-19 Women's event will be jointly hosted by Bangladesh and Nepal. The hosts were selected via a competitive bidding process overseen by a board subcommittee. According to the ICC board had accepted recommendations of the committee, who subsequently conducted a thorough review of each bid along with the ICC management. Well, that's all the news we have tonight on AdaDerana First at 9. You may join us on our social media and our mobile notifications to get the latest around the clock from AdaDerana. That's it for tonight.
For news and information you can trust 24 hours a day, visit adaderana.lk.